What is going on, Corner Talk family? It is so good to be back with you guys for another episode. We were actually just talking that we've been catching some traction, and so real quick, if you're listening to this, we actually have a YouTube channel, and I'd love for you guys to go check it out. Go subscribe to it. It is Corner Talk HT. HT was what my producer, Zach, labeled it as, so don't really know what to say about that. But shout out to Zach and Jordan again for being back behind the scenes, helping me out. But again, if you're listening to this, go to YouTube, check it out, search it up. You guys will be able to catch the whole entire podcast episode right there. Subscribe and share it with someone that you would think needs to listen to this podcast. But without further ado, I'm really, really excited for this podcast today. Typically, the guy that I have on here today, you'd see him behind the keys, behind the scenes, not so much front of house, but it's cool to have him on board today. And so, without further ado, love to introduce my guest, Pastor Isaac Hernandez.
I'm glad to be on here, honey.
Dude.
I appreciate it, man.
It's legit.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. This guy right here has actually known me since I was little, running around being a hood rat.
Little Bieber haircut.
Not everyone knows about that.
My first experiences with you, you're like, I don't know, something happened, but you looked at me and said, I'm the pastor's kid. I was like, this guy.
He's going to be that kid.
He's going to be that kid. I think I tripped you a couple of times, but we're good now.
Well, here's the good news. I mean, when you hear about pastors' kids, there's those pastors' kids, and then there's me. No, I'm just kidding.
And then there's Hunter.
And then there's me. No, I'm excited for this episode today. I know whenever we talked about doing this, you were asking, like, hey, what direction are we going to take it? And honestly, like what we've done on the last several podcast episodes is just kind of free flow, seeing what the Lord and the Holy Spirit wants to do. But as we talked right before this, I think that there's a perspective that you can bring for people out there who might be struggling with their belief in God. Is God real? Does God really love me? Well, if he did love me, then why is this happening to me? All these, how do I experience something that everyone says is so great, but this over here, it's like I just keep on getting this, and that. So knowing your story, you get to share as much as you want, as little as you want. But yeah, just however you want to start, you tell us who Isaac is, where you were, how you got to where you're at now. Because even at that, real quick, before we jump into that, you were working at the church, felt like God called you away to a different season, but not for a long period of time. I mean, you said before you left and went to go work at this other place, you said, I feel that the Lord is going to call me back. I feel like this is only a temporary assignment, and now you're back.
Yep.
So even in the middle of that, hearing your story of how you started off to where you're at now, to have the kind of faith to say, hey, this is only temporary and I know I'll be back. How do we get there? So again, who is Isaac? How do we get here?
I gotcha. Well, I know there's several people that come up to me, hey, Isaac, hey, this, and it's not a y'all issue, it's a me issue, and I can't remember names or anything, so I have visibility, but a lot of people really don't know who I am. So as far as that, man, I was born in Sweetwater in 1984, grew up in Snyder, Texas. There's a lot of Snyder alumni here at the worship center. So, between Pastor Jocelyn, I think Annie G's from Snyder, and there's several across the board. Ike, which is my brother. He's a bass player with the long hair and stuff. I've known him since I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
And so talking about someone doing life with you, he's been there almost every step of the way. He went into the military and everything like that. But, man, all I know is the Lord's doing something here at the worship center, and I'm humbled to be a part of that, man. And so one of the biggest things growing up in Snyder, it's a small town. Right. Everybody knows almost everybody, and, everything goes around. And so I think one of the biggest things that because I grew up Christian. 8 years old is when my dad started teaching me music and stuff like that. Then my oldest brother gave me like a very strong appreciation for music. But during that time, didn't really realize that I was a pastor's kid too. Yeah. My dad was a deacon at the church. He was a worship leader. And you know what? It was about when I was 15 years old, when everything kind of turned around. So I know at that time I was leading worship at a Baptist church there in Snyder,
Yeah.
and well, my dad was caught in immoral sin. And the thing about it, me growing up and everything like that, having older brothers and sisters, I was one of the last people out of the house. And so there's a lot of things I saw or heard that I was just like, this ain't Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, this ain't at least the Jesus that I'm starting to know. And so, things just as a pastor's kid, seeing a ministry spiral out of control. And so with that, I was just like, okay, well, there's a mark. And then when Candy and I end up getting together, Candy and I got together. My wife's Candy Hernandez. A lot of people don't really know I'm married. She's on the worship team, but she's back and forth doing what she's got to do and whatnot. But when I met her back in 2001, I was about to enter a season of a downward spiral. And so I tell people that our relationship was founded on a tragedy,
Sure.
but it was a beautiful tragedy when you're on this other side. But the thing is, it doesn't feel that way. When you're in the midst of it, in the thick of it, you always lose the forest for those trees because that tree is the biggest thing in front of you. And so my dad fell into immoral sin, and my dad, we didn't realize how much, he's the rock. Our family fell apart, and Candy was right there with me. And, she was able to encourage me, motivate me, and stuff like that. And at the time, I didn't want it. I did everything to push her and, her mom away. And, but they still love me. So I started college in 2001. So I was finally, when I left Colonial Hill, I was like, I'm done. We started going to a Pentecostal Church of God in Snyder, Texas. Church, shout out. I don't even know if it's still there, but whatever. Anyway, so with that being said, I played drums there and stuff like that. Ended up singing a song over there, and they said that that was a spiritually demonic song. I was like, everything is about uplifting, and anyway, I'm not going to go down that track. And so that was their edifying my stance.
Yeah.
That was their edifying. So all the correct Christians, we could say, that came into my life were edifying my stance of, this is the reason I'm not serving anymore. So instead of just being an atheist, I became a militant atheist, And so with that, I didn't feel that there was any sort of real truth except for the truth of the universe. Numbers don't lie, different things like that. But even then, being on the other side of everything, now I'll come back to the story, but you can see you were right there. You were right there. I can't believe you were right there, but you were. Yeah. And so to go back and just kind of go down everything, being like, even in my failure, Father, even in my militance, if that's a word,
yeah,
you're still there. You were still there. And you're not going to leave me, And so I think that was probably the most prominent thing on this side of everything, knowing, hey, everything's going to be good. Yeah. Everything's going to be okay. And so, well, when that happened, I ended up, and I'm going to say this for everyone, and so now it's out nationally or globally or whatever, but my wife and I, we saved ourselves for marriage. Both her and I were, we're pure sexually. And so at that point, when we got married, we consummated our marriage. And I looked at her, I said, there has been an ongoing thing in my family, and it has to stop. At the time, I didn't know what that looked like because I wasn't believing, I wasn't anything.
Sure.
And so I went to college in 2004. In 2004. I found the correct group of friends to further my stance.
Yeah.
And virtually, it's just like, okay, everything happens, and not all of it's for a reason. Not all of it. It's just, hey, whatever comes, it comes. That's virtually the life you're living. And so there's really no hope. It's very pragmatic, black and white.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated, when Candy and I moved up here in the beginning of summer of 2006, I told her, I was like, you can go to any church you want. Leave me out of it. And, you know, very hateful thing to say, but she responded. She was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, her best friend had a boyfriend, and he played on the TWC softball team.
I forgot about that.
TWC softball, man, we're taking it back to 06.
Yeah.
And so I had no clue about the church or anything. And he was like, man, come watch me play softball. I was like, shoot, yeah. And so we're new to the area. We didn't know what to do. And so we would go out there, and I was cruising around my gold Saturn. Yeah. Windows rolled down. The sunroof opened up, and we went to our first game blaring "Welcome to the Jungle" by Guns N' Roses. And I remember PT was just like, and he kind of looked back. I can only imagine what was going through his head.
100%.
But Candy and I ended up sitting by Mama T, and and so at that time we were like, we didn't know that TWC was a thing. I saw everybody wearing TWC jerseys, but we're there to see Jeff. Yeah. And so some things happened during the game that they just made me smile, and I was just like, these people look all right, kind of thing. And so with that, it wasn't the following week that that buddy of mine was saying, man, I want to try this church out. And it was like, okay, go. Man, I really want you to come with me. I was like, you're a grown adult. You can go and do what you got to do. And, man, he kept on me for a month. And finally I was like, shut up, dude. Where is it at? When is it? Shut up. Yeah. Kind of thing. And so there's a little barn out in the middle of nowhere on 1585 in Indiana, out in the middle of a cotton field. I walked in on, at the time Pastor Brian was leading the song and stuff like that. Pastor Brian is he's the youth pastor from 2006, and we developed a strong relationship with them. But I walked in, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm pretty sure I saw Moose and Jocelyn for the first time because I judged my dear Jocelyn. I'm sorry, Jocelyn. But I was just like, But anyway, walked in, and I felt there was something different in the atmosphere. Sure. And I was just like, okay, whatever. Well, PT gets on platform, starts speaking on the prodigal son. At that time, I'm just like, I'm in the thick of it. We just moved up here, making $10 bucks an hour in the sign industry. So I got my start in the sign industry in 2006. And it was then that when I walked in that day, I was just like, I fell on my face and said, Father, I don't know what to do. If you're willing to give me another chance, I'm willing to give you another one too. And from that time, man, it was just walking it out and trying to, and did it get easier? No. But it felt great to hold on to a different kind of hope. And, and to look back and see just even the seasons. This is where we got into missions. This is where I got planted, doing worship and stuff. And now I'm extremely blessed to do, just worship and do graphics and different things like that, and lead a team that powerful, like I said, Zach, the producer over here, and Jordan Saylor, audio engineer. To have a team like that, and you got Annie, Emma in the background, which are our TWC creative team. Shout out to these guys. They make the vision, PT's vision, that the Holy Spirit inspired him, come alive. Right. And I'm grateful to be a part of that. And and so in 2006, we started coming to church and everything, starting getting involved. So virtually I went from an atheist to a platform playing electric guitar, which I barely can play,
Yeah.
in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It was because of Pastor Brian. He was like, virtually get in where you fit in was kind of his motto. So he pulled me in, and there I started learning, hey, church, God isn't about, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like,
Right.
Hell, fire, brimstone.
Right.
I never knew a God. I never knew a Christ that wanted me to love him just because. And he loved me anyway.
Right.
In spite of everything, he was right there the whole time. Like I'm saying, I was estranged from my family for pushing 10 years. The only person I spoke to was my father. And that was every probably 6 to 9 months that I would hear from him. He was going through his season too. And, he fell into drugs and alcohol. And, enemy can't come up with new sins, so he plays the same card over and over. But it's crazy how little the human psyche changes because we still fall for it.
Right.
But once you're able to catch what he's doing, you're like, I got you. We're not playing that game, bro.
Right.
And so with that, I was able to speak with my father and stuff, but it was so sporadic that I never, because me and my dad were close. We were close. If there was anything, I knew my dad would make time for me. And I was blessed to have a father to where I can go jump up in his lap and lay my head on his chest.
Yeah.
But when he was amongst elders and different things like that, you're like, there's a reverence, there's a fear that you have. And it's not oh my God, my dad's going to beat me or anything. No, it's dad's in the midst of elders. Let's act right. Yep. And so there was that balance of loving the Father, but a healthy fear of the Father. And my dad taught me the fear of the Lord at such a young age, and I didn't realize it. Because Jesus Christ himself, he longs for us to just spend that time with him. I mean, there's a song, The More I Seek You, just want to sit at your feet, drink from the cup in your hand, lay back against you and breathe and hear your heartbeat. More than anything, as long as I can hear you breathing, Father, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay. And so with that, I mean, having my dad teach me that, and then coming into a place to where I'm like, that relationship is available. And I never knew that. I knew there was something lacking. I knew there was so much more. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And so as soon as we started, giving everything to our Lord, we put a target on our back. And that's where a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm done. Why? Because you got offended with outcomes that you produced.
Oof. Say it.
So that's the biggest thing, is because the thing is, when having a Savior, you can leave everything at his feet and say, you know what? It's not, okay, I'm fluffing this off. It's understanding what was done and knowing that you can't do a thing about it. You can't change it. Right. You won't change it. There's not one person that has found that time machine yet to go back and change it. But if you really think about it, would you want to?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have Candy. I wouldn't have my daughter Braylee if I go change things. And so with that, it just taught us to rely not on ourselves. And that's what I tell people. I was like, man, you got this. I don't tell people that. I was like, I'm going to let you know right now, you don't have this. But I know my dad does.
Yeah. He's
got you. And so placing that trust and knowing every day that everything that I have, everything that I know about, all the knowledge comes from my father, comes from my dad. And some of it from my physical dad, all of it from Jesus.
Yeah.
And so from that, the Holy Spirit. And so with that, man, it's a lot of life happens and stuff like that. I'll fast forward to, a couple of years ago. It was a Thanksgiving, and I was working here at the church, and my brain broke. So Thanksgiving of 2021, we were sitting at the kitchen table in my sister's house, and, I said something to my father, and my mom took it way the wrong way, and all of her issues in her heart spilled out on that table. And it was something that I thought we got past, that we, she hadn't gotten past it. And I told her, after we were able to get everything leveled out, and I said, Mom, I love you so much. But everything that was spoken, that's a you issue.
Right.
It has nothing to do with me. It has stuff to do with me, but we've either forgiven and gone forward, or we haven't. So I learned a lot about my mom that day, and I'm not bad-mouthing my mom whatsoever. Just know that.
Yeah.
I love that butterball turkey more than you'll ever know. She's so sweet. She's PT's biggest fan. And so PT would always tell me that when my dad was alive, when they would come down together, they made him feel like a rock star, like a major big deal. And so they loved him some PT. My dad owes his coming back to Christ to PT. And he came back through a tithing message that
That's rare.
PT, yeah.
That's rare.
And because, the thing is, my dad was constantly studying when I was a kid. I always saw him studying. My dad held on to principles. And when PT spoke on a principle, he was like, that's where I failed. Yeah. Because I thought I had it. And so he started keeping our father's principles and everything like that. He was in his late 50s when he started his 401k, all that stuff. And he was able to die and leave my mom a nice amount of money just by keeping our father's principles through the tithe message. And so it was insane to see just how doing that will get you far. PT has a testimony on tithing as well, and so with that, more than anything, looking back on the time being an atheist, everything was on me. Everything. All the decisions, all the bad mistakes, everything. That's you, bro. That's me. Yeah. But the thing is, even in those outcomes, you can see little glimmers and be just like, I can't believe you took care of me right there, Father. Yeah. And understanding that it wasn't anything you did. It was purely his grace and mercy. Sure. And so I think more than anything, going through that phase, I'm grateful for it. But it's not a fun place to be at. Yeah. It's dark. It's hopeless. Yeah. If you want to wrap it up in one word.
Hopeless.
Hopeless.
The part that, because I agree, like I hear you saying the fact like I was where I was at because of my own decisions. But one of the things that I constantly, talk about, whether that be in young adults or even from the platform on a Sunday or just conversation, my heart is to really break down the religious stronghold that the church has created, the religious mindset. And so, Jesus didn't come for religion. That's the thing. Anywhere you go look anywhere in the Bible, he did not come for religion. The Pharisees had religion.
100%.
But the Pharisees, the religious ones, were also the ones that were the furthest away from God. And then you look at the church nowadays. No one wants to go to church anymore because the church was supposed to be a safe place. It's supposed to be a place where you can come and not be judged. Now, hear me out. There's a difference in condemnation and conviction.
Bingo.
Right? So the truth of God's word will always remain. And so I've even told my young adults team, I don't care who walks in these doors, what they walk in with, how they look, what they sound like. We're going to love them where they are, but to where they've always belonged.
Bingo.
Right? So we're not going to compromise the truth, but we're also not going to give them another reason to hate the church. So the biggest way to lead someone to Jesus is by focusing on the relationship. If you can win the relationship, you have a better chance at them actually listening to what you're wanting to sell them, what you're wanting to put out there. So in all of that, what I was hearing as you're talking is, like, you met a lot of the Christian people And as much as like, yes, it was some decisions that I made, because I do agree with that. You know, I think one of the number one ways to get things fixed in our own life is identifying I'm where I'm at because of the decisions that I made. But everyone has trauma and everyone has hurt from something. Like, I can't stand when someone's talking to someone and they get frustrated with that person because of the way they're responding. Look, the reason that person's responding is because there's obviously a hurt that they went through.
Trauma.
You know, there's trauma. There's a reason that they are the way that they are.
Yeah.
And I tie it back to religion. Like you met the church people, the ones that you thought that you could be safe with. And from what I'm hearing, it gave you more reasons to want to leave the church rather than invite you into the church. The difference between religion and relationship is a level of pursuit. You look at religion pushed you further away from Christ when that was never Jesus' intent. His intent was to draw you closer. And what you're saying is it wasn't religion that got me tied back into the church.
No, sir.
It was the relationship. You went to a softball game. And in that softball game, you know,
that was well far from the church.
Right.
You know, it's had nothing to do with it. The only thing that was tied to it was TWC.
That's it.
The jersey.
But then you look at the interaction of the people, laughing, having fun, cutting up. You know, I can't stand whenever people get frustrated whenever you have fun in church and people are like, I can't believe you're doing that. God wouldn't condone that. Bro, get out of here. Go do something with your life.
I was like, I don't know, but I think Jesus just laughed at what I did.
100%. Well, and Jesus himself went to parties.
No, yeah.
You know, like.
He brought people out of those parties.
Yes. You're not wrong.
I've heard people say, well, Jesus went and he was with the sinners and partiers, drinkers and stuff like that. Was he drinking? Well, we don't know. It was like, our Father's pure. Our Father came for the person lost in sin. He didn't come for the saved people. He didn't come for the Pharisees. Right. Why? Because they were already saved in their brain.
Right.
No, he said, okay, let me go into this situation. You know what? I love you too much to leave you right there.
Right.
Come follow me.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was, okay, that's great. You want to go to the parties and stuff like that too? What is your testimony bringing them out?
Yeah.
We have to be able to say, you know what? If the Lord's leading me back into these situations, he's leading me to bring back his children.
Right.
You know, and don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted and go in there and start acting a fool or anything like that, because now you just ruined your testimony.
Right.
You know, and so with that, it wasn't the religious that drew me back to the church. It was the relationship. And that relationship is the exact thing our Father wants with us.
Yep.
And so he said, the Pharisees, great people, what is the greatest commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. You know what the second one is? Love people. But the thing is, you can never learn how to love people if you don't love yourself.
Right.
Because if you hate yourself, which that was my problem for the longest time during atheism, and it went well in to my Christian walk.
Yeah. Well, it bleeds.
100%, man. It bled all over some of my ministry too. Why? Because I held people at distances. I never let anyone in. I never wanted anyone to be in. Why? Because I can't trust you.
Yeah.
Well, if the Lord has called us to love his people, we have to start trusting.
Yeah.
And ultimately that's saying, okay, Father, I trust you that your word is true.
Right.
And I'm trusting that if I open myself up, you're going to guard this heart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think more than anything, it's realizing, once again, that the things that have happened, you can't change them. Like I'm saying in 2021, in 2021, that Thanksgiving is, I had a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
I got to a point to where I was just like, I told my wife, you may have to put me somewhere. I am not safe with myself. And this is in the midst of a renewed life, of a renewed walk, and then all of a sudden, a door in your brain just got kicked open, and all that junk you didn't realize was in there just fell out. Okay, so what do we do? All right, I don't need you. I don't need you. You go through that closet. Don't shove it back in there.
Yeah.
Don't shove that junk back in there,
Right.
because if you do, it's going to open again. But looking at every little piece of evidence, every piece of a broken life, and saying, you're right here, Father. You caught my tears right here. You saved my life right here. And to know that there's absolutely nothing that I've done. It's all just your love.
Yep.
Your love for me. Who am I?
Right.
That you're mindful of me.
Right.
I still don't understand that. I don't have to. My dad does.
Yeah.
And with that, I take trust.
Dude, the relief though from not having to understand that, like I feel like as humans, like it's human nature to want to have the answers, and to, if we really get down to the root of it, we're control freaks. Like we want to control. We want to know that, hey, I got this. And Jesus is like, to me, I think being a control freak also comes with anxiety, because if something doesn't go the way that you want it to, you freak out, and God's literally like, hey, bro, you don't have to be that way. Well, I want to be that way. Well, you don't have to be that way. Well, I want to be, and we go,
this is the way I am. It's like, are you sure? Or is that the way you allowed yourself to become?
Well, you think about like a deep clean, like you're talking about taking things out. So for instance, we just got done moving my parents out of their house into their house. And bro, let me tell you, you don't realize how much stuff you have until you start moving.
Yep.
And because I took over the old house. And so started a full-blown remodel. Well, up until like right before the remodel started, I thought I had the whole house like ready, good to go.
Yeah.
I go to one closet and I find more stuff. And I'm like, good Lord, dude, like how much more stuff? And part of me, like, sorry, Mom and Dad, if you're listening, part of me, I'm like, they don't even know they have this. Like, I don't even want to call them and ask if they want it. Like, let me just throw it away. Because how many things, whenever we're doing a deep clean, do we see that stuff we've not used in years, and all of a sudden we find it, we're like, oh, let me keep that. I'm going to use it.
When?
You ain't get, like, seriously.
When you
like,
going to use that?
I have a rule. So if I'm doing a deep clean on my closet, my rule is if I've not worn it in the last 6 months, chances are I'm probably not going to wear that again.
Yeah.
So take it out. I'll go and donate it. For me, like I just did a series in young adults called Deep Clean.
Okay.
Based off of deep cleaning your closet, deep cleaning your house. How many things, whenever we're doing a deep clean and we go to church and we go to the altar and things are great and we're like, yep, I'm going to start over. I'm going to do good. I'm going to go. I'm going to get this done. And things are going great. And you go outside and something happens and you're like, oh, God. Like, I just gave my life to the Lord, and this person in the parking lot, they don't know how to drive, and you're getting frustrated. But the Lord's asking you to do a deep clean, and you're having to remove the things from the old past. But then it's like, this might come in handy. Let me hold on. Like, I like the angry side of me because that makes me feel bad, and it makes me feel bold, and at least, no one's going to walk all over me. And what blows my mind about that, because I think this is kind of off topic, but I know that this is something, like anger is something that you've struggled with in the past. So maybe you can even speak into this. But as a man, like it's one of those things that we associate manhood and manliness with anger. And any time you look at Jesus in the Bible, he could have got so angry, so mad on the Pharisees. I mean, the Pharisees were following him around in a cornfield or a wheat field, whatever it was, sitting there waiting for him to stop. And every single time that someone came up and argued with him or, said, hey, this doesn't line up, or hey, go do this, he responded with such peace and such calmness. And in the middle of peace and calm, like he's still dropping the mic.
Yeah.
So like in that, that kind of does flow into your story a little bit. What was the thing for you? Because I'm sure even to this day, like there's still like residue. There's still going to be times that things tick you off. You get mad, real quick to anger. But in that, like, is it safe to say, is it true to say that in order to be a man, you have to be angry? Or is there a certain way that, hey, no, there's a better way. You can still get the job done. You can still be bold. You can still be confident. But here's the example our father set.
Well, if you can show anger, you can show every other emotion as a man. I remember the first time I saw my father cry. I felt more connected to him than because honestly, as a kid, I was a more sensitive kid. You know, I've always been a big boy. I'm a big boy, and so with that, it's I got picked on all the way through not January, junior high.
Just the one month of the year,
this is
just
like,
January.
Apparently, Father, there's something in January. We'll get back to that. So, but and finally, I got sick of it.
Yeah.
I was like, and because, like, I was a geek. I was straight A's, good in school, slept in school, still passed, kind of thing. And so with that, I didn't have many friends. I had Ike. In high school, I got some more friends and whatnot. I mean, 2 other friends, complete idiots, but I love them still. But at the same time, you don't have to be angry. You don't have, and honestly, it's a choice because the thing about anger is you cannot control what anybody else does.
Right.
You control what you do. And with that, it's like, it's having to learn what your triggers are and to say, okay, Father, I have to give these to you.
Right.
And the main trigger is when I get into my truck and drive.
Bro, especially in Lubbock, Texas.
So like last Sunday, I got flipped off coming from church. I was like, doing something great.
Thanks, man.
No, I was pulling.
And it's a person from TWC.
Right.
They got a sticker on the back.
So it's TWC. Golly. And so, but with that, it's just like I was traveling at a consistent rate of speed. Yeah. And they turned right into my lane to where I had to slam on my brakes, and I just tapped my horn.
But it's your fault.
Yes, sir. I get it. I'm the bad guy. But you know what? The dude, I looked over at him, and he flipped me off, so I just said... and that made him even angrier, which made me happy, which is not a good thing. But at the same time, hey, he said, be angry and do not sin.
Yeah.
I didn't. I waved.
Yeah.
And so with that, man, it's learning your triggers, understanding, hey, these are the things that get me. All right, well, take some time with them.
Right.
If you're learning an instrument, you have to take time with it. If you're learning a new trade, you have to take time with it. If you're anything, you don't know it until you know it.
Right.
And once you start applying tools or different things that you learn from places and stuff. Luckily for me, I had to learn mine in therapy. And and I know there's still a stigma behind that. Well, God should be your ultimate healer, 100%. Right. But wasn't it not He that placed these people in our lives? I think so.
Yeah. And
so with that, because there are certain things that I wasn't taught. There's things that other people don't know. There's other things that people don't know how to do. It's like, right. Okay, you got equipped. Here's the equipping. Now, what you do with it is up to you.
Yeah.
Everything is just information until you apply it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's one of those things, like, even on the anger side, it's not a sin to be angry. The sin is what you do in your anger.
Yep.
But once you know better, you do better.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to apply. Like, you learn here in the sanctuary, or you go to church and you're like, oh man, that was a great message. Now you go apply it. Like, it's not just to hear.
Yeah.
It's to apply. I had an instance not too long ago, and I don't know if this guy, I'm not going to say names, and I don't know if he listens to this podcast, but this happened in young adults a couple weeks ago. It was actually at our Friendsgiving, and we set up like a big photo booth. We had balloons, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. And one of my leaders, she was outside, and she's popping all the balloons to throw away. And she said, hey, Pastor Hunter, can you go inside and get a trash bag? Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the other guys was with me. He just attends young adults.
Okay.
And so I asked him, I said, hey, man, real quick, can you go inside and go get a trash bag for Abby so that she can, throw all the balloons away? He said, yeah, absolutely. So he goes inside, and one of my other leaders was putting a trash bag in the trash can. So that guy goes over to that leader, and he just takes that trash bag out of his hand. And I'm sitting there kind of like, what is going on? Like, why? Because the guy that did it, he thought he was being funny.
Gotcha.
The guy, my leader that was putting the trash bag in, he'd recently struggled with anger in the past. And I'm sitting there like, as the pastor, I'm like, I feel like I should do something, but I kind of want to see how this plays out. And so that leader, he looks at him, and he got red. He was mad. He said, you know what? I hope and pray that the Lord blesses you. And he just walks off.
That's awesome.
And so I leave him alone for a good 20 minutes. He came up to me and said, Pastor Hunter, I'm sorry. He said, everything else in me came up, and I didn't know what to say. He said, so I just told him that I hope and pray that you have a blessed day. Let me tell you, my past life came up, and I tried not to. I wasn't going to say anything bad. But the cuss words almost came. And I said, well, I am so proud of you.
See?
But, dude, I mean, I was in tears. Like, that's a righteous anger. I hope and pray that you have a blessed day.
Well, that's good. I mean, it should make your heart proud. You're sitting there like, yes.
Well, man, I know we're running out of time, but I think what you said the best today, you know, honestly, Zach, you could write this in your notes, bro, that the title could be, this might actually get a lot of traction if you put the title as former atheist turned pastor, hear his story, you know, stuff like that. That would be crazy. But going from a place of having, I said this on a recent podcast with Pastor Evan, don't look at God so much as just God.
Yeah.
We'll get lost in that. There's so much to God that we just won't understand until we get to heaven.
Yeah, there's
largest
so
part
of your brain you have to reserve for
right.
the things you don't understand.
But you can refer to him as what you've been calling him this entire time, my dad, my father, because that is something that we do understand. And even for those who might have a broken relationship with their father, can I tell you that healthy relationship with your dad is love, it's peace, it's comfort. Yeah. There's conviction, right? There's challenge. So being in good relationship doesn't mean that you're not going to be challenged, doesn't mean that you're not going to get in trouble. You're in trouble because you got someone who loves you and sees the best in you and wants to pull the best out of you. That's the kind of father that God is. And so don't get
Absolutely.
lost in that. But you heard it today. Going from a place with no God, no father, in the sense of Jesus, is hopeless. You're going to go through things and you're going to fall off. Like it's like a little kid riding your bike. You're going to fall off. You're going to scrape up your knees. You're going to hurt yourself. And the best thing I remember when I was little, the best thing that I could do was run to my dad. Like I just wanted my mom and my dad to hold me because I was hurt. And I mean, it's kind of like for some reason that hug would make everything better. Yeah. It would just make everything. I remember, you know, even being in high school, different set of struggles, right? But having my dad right there with me, yeah, I knew that I could get through anything. And that's the same kind of thing that we have with Jesus. You can go from hopelessness to having hope, to having a God that's in your corner that wants to pull the best out of you, that's not going to use you. He's not going to force himself on you, but he's going to invite you into something better. Yeah. So that's what's on the table, and we hope this podcast blessed you. Isaac, thank you so much for jumping on and just being real, raw, vulnerable. Yeah. It was great. I love you, man. I appreciate it.
Love you, too. One last thing, dude, just to let you know, just to show the goodness of Dad. He restored my mom and Dad's marriage before he passed away. They were remarried. They were never separated, but it was more, hey, let's renew this commitment.
Right.
And he's in the process of restoring every member of my family as well.
Bro.
Dude, I got a good dad.
Yeah, you do.
So.
Dad that knows the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
And says, hey, in my time, I'm going to bring it all together.
He's an on-time God.
Come on, man. Guys, we hope that this podcast blessed you. Make sure, again, go check it out on YouTube if you're just listening. If you are watching, it is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the good stuff. But till next time, we love you guys so much, and we'll see you then.
Hey everyone, Hunter Turnbow here, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us for Corner Talk Podcast. I hope that it encouraged you and empowered you. Make sure that you guys share this with someone because hopefully it can encourage them and empower them as well. But till next time, we love you guys so much.